Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Hope you all are doing good. And this is lecture number 3 of Karma Sarai project. And let me share my screen with you first. Okay. So I hope that you all can see my screen and let me share the presentation which is designed by me and Ma'am Ishwa. This is the lecture number 3 of Karma Sarai Design Project, and this is the last project of Design Studio 2. And I hope that you all are now done with the first phase of the project, which is literature review and data collection of the design project. And we will be discussing that in the interactive session. And let's move on to this lecture number 3. And the agenda for today's lecture is that first we will do the revision of the previous lecture, as I think that some of the students might not be able to see or view the previous lecture because of many factors, and because that nowadays we have Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan, and I think that some of the students are not able to view the lecture due to certain reasons. So we will be doing the revision of the previous lecture, which has been delivered very beautifully by Ma'am Ishwa, and then we will move on to the next phase, which is the basics. We will be discussing some of the basic things where students lack and students do mistakes and students are not able to grasp certain things. And then the third and important part of this lecture is the factors that are to be considered while designing the cafeteria and while designing the interior of the cafeteria. So we will be discussing these three main parts of today's lecture, and this is today's agenda, which we'll be discussing in the next slides. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay. So first agenda is to revise the previous points which has been delivered by Ma'am Ishwa, and the key points that were discussed in the previous lectures were. Okay. So we all know that this has been discussed in the first and second lectures, and now again I am emphasizing on these points, as these points are very important because these are basically the learning objectives of not only of the previous lecture, but these are the learning objectives of the entire design project. So which means that by the end of the project you will be able to have a very good grasp on these points which are you can see on the screen. So the first one is anthropometrical viability, which has been already told in the last lecture, that now as we have moved on to the next level of the commercial project, and we have incorporated various types of multiple spaces in your project. So you guys have to be very smart when it comes to the spatial organization and spatial architectural organization of your project. You have to handle each and every space according to the human inhabitation, and you have to consider that how much space a certain space is required for when you design a seating for two members, or when you design multiple seating for different kind of members. Similarly, if you are to design bakery, you have to consider the points that how many people would be roaming in the aisle, and how many people would be serving the food items. Similarly, how many people would be attending washrooms, plus how many of the members would be handling the kitchen and all. So anthropometrical viability basically means that you have to consider the space regarding to the human inhabitation, and how much space a human requires. So and plus how beautifully and how intelligently you will handle multiple spaces which are now incorporated in this project, because in this project we have designed it in such a way that you have to design a bakery plus a cafe. Obviously, if you have to design a cafe and a bakery, then the kitchen is the most important part of it. Plus, you have to design a seating, and we have already told you in the previous lecture that it is totally up to you that how you incorporate seating. You can do a fully interior part, you can incorporate outdoor and interior spaces too. So it's up to your creativity that how much out of the box you think, and how much out of the way you go to design this project in a short period of time. So the next part was services, and in the services, it was clearly mentioned. In the last project, it was clearly mentioned that how you are to handle the services which are which are to be incorporated in the front of the house, and the services which are to be incorporated in the back of the house. So in this project, obviously, kitchen is the most sensitive part of this type of project, this type of commercial project. So you have to consider this fact that what type of services, either it is related to storage, it is related to kitchen, or it is related to washrooms or a seating spaces, whatever services you have to incorporate, you have to consider that what type of services are to be considered in the front of the house, and what type of services are to be considered in the back of the house, plus how strong you develop the connection between the certain spaces. Students, please don't forget that in the previous project, I have noticed this issue that and most of the students did this, that they provided different spaces, but they lost the connection between them. So, either you place the thing in the front or the back, you have to know that there is a certain connection between the spaces, and how intelligently you will build your project will itself, speak up when you will present it. So the third point was MEP, and obviously, which this means that how you have to handle the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings. Students, we have just incorporated this term just to give you a flavor of it, so that you can. So when you move into the next semester, you should know that what does this term mean, because you will be having the courses which will be give you in-depth analysis of these type of drawings, and these type of mechanical, electric, and plumbing drawings awareness. So for this project, you just have to know that how ventilation works for kitchen, because there are literally certain bad examples which I personally have experienced, that when the kitchen is not designed in a good way, when the ventilation is not good, so the ambience of the entire cafeteria and the ambience of the entire interior literally deteriorates, and it is very hard for the customer to even sit there and enjoy the meal. So these type of technicalities are to be handled very intelligently. And the last point in the previous lecture which was discussed, the main learning objective was interior. So these four main learning objectives are very important, and the I'm giving stress on it again and again, because by the end of the day, your project is to be your project is to be marked on these four main points. So obviously the interior is very important for a cafeteria design, because we as a customer, you have to think yourself as a customer, and you have to think that when you go out of your busy schedule to spend some money for the food, so you need good ambience, you need good environment, so you have to consider the interior too. And students, we have in the previous project, we have told you that how to create mood boards for the interior, and we have given you a brief presentation on how to use PowerPoint. If you are not clear on it, just let us know, and we will arrange another additional lecture for you, so that you may know that how to use PowerPoint, and how to use different tools of it, and how to present different mood boards when it comes to interior design, and when it comes to showing the internal spaces. So this was the revision section, and now we will move on to the next agenda, which is the basics. We will revise some of the basic points. So working on the basics is very important, because what me and Mameshwa have analyzed, that some of the students are very weak on the basics when it comes to design. So we will be discussing some of the 2 to 3 points in today's lecture, and further points will be discussed in the previous and in the next lecture, inshallah. And we are discussing the basics because this would help you to go through the design process very smoothly. Because when you do not start your work on when you do not start your work from the scratch in a good way, then it is very hard for you to produce good and fruitful result in the end. So the first point which I have concluded is that students are very weak in case study. uh, you guys are good in literature review. I would really appreciate some of the good points that some students are good on, but the points which you're not clear on should be discussed and should be solved, so that in the next semester it would be easy for you to handle the project very carefully from the very initial stages. So the thing which we have concluded that students do not have a good grasp on how to do an or how to conduct a good architectural case study. So the main purpose of the case study is to observe and analyze. When I say that observe and analyze, it means that you have to select a case study with a very with a very good selection criteria, and your case study should be based on a certain sets of selection criteria, and you should not have a vague point of view while presenting your case study, and you should observe and analyze that what are the pros and cons of the case study. When doing a certain case study, please keep that in mind, that what are the positive side of the case study and what are some of the negative points of the case study, and then you have to conclude the case study on regarding that points, and you have to then the basic thing to conclude the pros and cons for the case study is that you have to use those pros in the your project, and then on the other hand you have to do not you do not have to incorporate those cons in your project. So basically the concluding the pros and cons means that you have to incorporate the good points in your case study, plus you have to avoid the negative points in your case study. This shows that how much your case study is linked with your project. If you do a case study just for the sake of formality, literally it won't help you, students, it won't help you, and this is the reason that some of the students then lack in the design process. So case study is very important. It tells you, and it makes you a good observer. It let you think through an architect perspective, plus it help you let analyze different spaces, and it let you help how you will incorporate those spaces in your design. Okay, so I hope that you are clear with the case study, because I have mentioned these points in the previous lecture too. But still, if there is any query, students, please, after I'll post this lecture in the Google Classroom, just write your queries under the comment section, and I will for sure address them in the next lecture. So the second important part which the students have not worked on in the previous project was SWOT analysis, and we have asked you to do that because SWOT analysis can be done in any stage of your project. It can be done in your site analysis, it can be done in your design process, it can be done in your master plan. Basically, this SWOT analysis is a process which let you know the strength and the weaknesses and the opportunity and the threats regarding the process in which you're going through. For instance, if you're doing a site analysis, then SWOT analysis would let you help conclude the strengths of the site. Plus, it would let you analyze the weaknesses of the site, and then you will incorporate those strengths and weakness in your design. So this is how you link everything with your design phase. So the design phase is never an isolated one. Each part of it is connected with a string, and if one string is broken, literally, then your design would not be fruitful. So please keep this thing very clear in your mind that every next phase should correlate with the previous phase. So talking about the opportunity and the threat, similar is with these 2 points, that when you're conducting a site analysis or when you're working on master plan, plus when you're working on case study, anything, if you conduct a good SWOT analysis, then it would be really very helpful for you. Just consider the opportunities which your site brings, just consider the opportunities which your surroundings bring, plus consider the opportunities which your interior spaces gives you. So when you will consider and jot down all these points, then I am really very hopeful that you would be able to produce a very good design. If you want me to elaborate more on SWOT analysis, I would recommend you to watch a previous lecture of a project of our beauty salon project, in which Ma'am Ishwa literally she explained this SWOT analysis in a very well manner. So if you want to have a more of a flavor of it, then please watch that video, or you want us to explain it again, then please let us know in the comment section so that we can prepare another lecture on SWOT analysis. So the third thing is bubble diagram. I hope you would be thinking that why bubble diagram? It's a very easy thing. But what we have analyzed is that students are not serious when it comes to the very first stage of the design process, which is the bubble diagram. Students, the thing is that basically a bubble diagram is the first stage of your first phase of your design process, and it helps you to identify the spaces and to help you to identify the connection between those particular spaces. So this is the first stage where you strongly develop connections based on literature review and case studies. Again, you can notice that everything is interconnected. So the bubble diagram is connected with the case study, and the case study is then connected with the literature review. So everything is interconnected. And when you are not serious regarding your bubble diagram phase, you are not able to produce good linkages between the main spaces. For instance, you can see in this image that the entry is connected to dining room, and the dining room is then connected to kitchen and restroom. What if I remove kitchen from here? What if I do not draw a bubble of kitchen from here, and I do not create a strong link in it? So what would happen? In the end result, I would not be able to create strong bond between the spaces which are to be linked together. So please consider this stage very important one, and please, students in the studio, we have noticed that you work on one bubble diagram the whole day. No, you are to produce maximum number of bubble diagrams so that you can conclude the best spatial organization for your plans, and you can create best linkages between your spaces. So please consider this phase very important. Now what if I remove this food storage from here and connect it with the dining room? Then there is no use of it, no? So this is how bubble diagrams let you help in the designing phase, and it let you help in building the strong connections between the different spaces. So the thing is that why are we discussing the bubble diagram? As you must be saying that this is the easiest part, but I would say that this is the most difficult one because this is the basic phase where you connect, you draw the conclusion and connection between different spaces, and you draw the linkages between them. So bubble diagram basically students help you to move on to the next phase, which is spatial planning. You can see in this image that how the architect has, converted this bubble diagram into the spatial planning. Similarly, you have to do the same because when you do not work on bubble diagram and you directly move on to the spatial planning phase, then you miss the strong linkages which are to be developed between different spaces. So it is very important for you to first go through this exercise multiple number of times. Even I would say that the most famous architects literally work on even 100 to 500 bubble diagrams per day to create a good design. So I would really encourage you to keep this thing with you, and shift to this practice so that you may be able to produce good design and strong linkages too. So moving to an advanced level, how to incorporate a bubble diagram into your site. So to create some strong spatial planning, and we will see a video on it so that you will have more clarity regarding it. And I'll be uploading this presentation too, and the links are provided there. If you want to see it again and again, you can. And if you want to bookmark these videos so that they may help you in your future, you can. And for that purpose, the presentation would be uploaded. And now I will show you. So let's watch a video for a detailed learning of how to uh, do the spatial planning. I'm sorry, as the link is okay. So let me copy the link and then I will show you. You can do the same if you want to bookmark the video. I have done it to show you how you can use this link and how you can view the video. Okay, students, you can see that the architect has first drawn the site. So never forget, whenever you do the site analysis, you miss this part that you don't write the dimensions for it. So please, whenever you draw your site, first write the dimensions so that it would be easy for you to visualize the spaces and visualize the linkages and the size of the spaces which are to be incorporated in your site. You can see that in the spatial planning, the architect is incorporating the sidewalks and the surrounding environment so that he may be able to conclude that which space is to be, incorporated in the back of the house, and which services are to be incorporated in the front of the house, and how the services which are to be placed in the back of the house can be connected with the roads or the sidewalks which are, which are there in the rear side of the site. You can see that how the architect has drawn arrows to show that this road is one way and this road is two way. We have noticed that when you guys did the master plan and the site analysis, you forgot to incorporate the arrows showing the vehicular traffic flow, which is a very important part of your spatial planning. Students, in the similar way, you can also use different colors to highlight the services which uh, through which you can differentiate that which services are to be used for in the back of the house and which are to be incorporated in the front of the house, and what are the outdoor sitting spaces where you can incorporate plantation. So you can, use different colors and then draw a legend for it. This would help you to, go through the design process very smoothly and will help you to conclude a very strong linkages between the spaces. This is the point which I was discussing, that why bubble diagram is so much important, because it literally helps you to finalize the spaces, and this is how you can do the same practice, and you can conclude your planning stage while going through this bubble diagram process. Similarly, by drawing these kind of arrows, you can show the flow of the customers in your cafe caravanserai project. I hope this video was helpful, and we will move on to the presentation now, and we will view the next slide. Please, if you have any kind of question, then please let us know, so that we can conduct an additional session for you, and we can have an interactive session, and we will discuss the queries and any kind of reservations or ambiguities that you have after watching the lecture. Okay, so now we will discuss some important factors for cafe design interior. And the question is, why cafe interior is that much important, and why we are emphasizing on it again and again. I hope the next slides will answer to this question. So the first thing is that the cafe interior is important because majority of the people go to the cafe to spend some time there, to have a quality time there, to grab the coffee, to grab some piece of cake, or to spend time with their friends. So all sort of people come there, and there is no specific targeted audience. So we have to design the interior keeping this thing in mind, that there is not a certain type of class coming to the cafe, because the cafe is open to everyone, and you have to keep this in mind while giving us the interior sketches and interior design themes, that for which type of customers you are incorporating those themes. And you have to keep this thing in mind too, that all sort of people are go to the cafes and enjoy their leisure time there. So that is why interior is very important. And unlike restaurants, the interior, as I have told you in the previous slide, that the cafes are not only restricted to a certain type of people. Similarly, the cafes are not restricted to certain type of activities. It is not a very formal place like restaurant. It is more of a cozy and casual place, and you can one can read a book there, one can work on the laptop while having the coffee. So the point which I am discussing is due to a certain reason, that when you will design your cafe, you have to incorporate this thing in your plan, that you have to design certain type of spaces where your customer can have a coffee. He or she can use the laptop, he or she can listen to music, enjoy to it. So you have to incorporate different kind of multiple spaces, and the spaces should be very creative and incorporative, interconnected, and they should be very artistic, so that it can attract more and more customers, and it can have multiple. You can even design the spaces in level differences to that each level can highlight a different kind of zone. So there are multiple kind of options. It is up to you that how you utilize those options and how you incorporate those options in your cafeteria design. Similarly, there are many type of cafes, and the one important part of the cafe is that it has a booth where you can grab the coffee and you can go, rather than sitting there and enjoying the coffee. So you have to consider this thing too, that you have to give enough good spatial, uh, uh, spatial space for the customers, so that they can there should be no rushy spaces developed in your plan, and there should be adequate space for the customers who want to sit, and adequate space for the customers who want to just grab some coffee or a piece of cake from there. So let us again view some of the spaces and seating options which you can also incorporate in your design. Students, the main objective for showing this video is that you can think out of the box too, and you can know that how different various artists are working out there and how they are incorporating different spaces. Again, I have shown you how to, you can also copy the link and you can paste here and then you can view the video. This is a very interesting one as it shows that how different kind of spaces are incorporated in the in the project. You can see that there was a bakery section in the front. We have also asked you to design a bakery, so that, so please, you have to consider this thing in your mind, that where you have to place the bakery, so that if, for instance, if I am a customer and I only want to grab a piece of cake there, so you should know that what service a bakery is, what kind of service, and either it should be placed in the front of the house or back of the house. These students, everything is interconnected, and you have to keep all the points in your mind while designing the project of Karma Serai. You can see that outdoor spaces have been designed in level differences, and the ambience is so good, and the natural lighting and the the architectural style, it's very vernacular, and it's the material which the artist has used is literally balancing out the outdoor seating environment. So please consider these facts too when you will design your project. As I told you in the previous slide, that a cafe is a place where you have to give multiple options of seating, so that one, if I want to have leisure time while reading a book, I can do that, and if I want to use my laptop, I can do that while having the coffee or a piece of cake or anything. So you can see that how the artist has created level differences, so one can easily do his or her thing and enjoy the cup of coffee. I hope this video has helped you to analyze that how and you can also incorporate different outdoor and indoor and semi-covered spaces in your design. And we'll watch the next video to it would, I hope that it would help you think out of the box, and it would help you to be more innovative and creative when it comes to the design process and design stage. So let us view this next video. You can see that the how outdoor spaces are being incorporated, and how the exterior is so welcoming, and you can see that the use of large windows, basically large it literally enhance the exterior plus the interior. It gives us an idea that how the interior space is well designed, plus this is a good strategy to attract the customer towards your cafe. Okay, you can see that every time the architect has incorporated the bakery section in the front. We highly encourage you to at least give us, freehand sketches. We know that in this stage you are not working on softwares, but please improve your sketching by practicing it, and then you can show us similar kind of views through good sketches. Okay, so I hope that it was helpful, and we'll move on to our next slide. Okay, so we will be discussing some other important factors that are to be considered while designing your cafe. Okay, so exterior of the cafe. As I've already told you in the previous slide that the exterior should be welcoming, and you can use glass in your exterior so that it let the viewer know that how well the interior has been designed, and this is a strategy to attract the customer. Plus you can also incorporate different kind of seating arrangements outside too, and it also helps the customer attraction. It also helps in the customer attraction, plus it also enhance the ambience of the cafe. So the other important factor is lighting. A good lighting design is very important in cafe design, and in the next lecture we will be discussing different types of lighting design that can be incorporated in your project. And obviously lighting is very important as it creates a very positive mood, and most of the cafes which are very famous and which are good when it comes to the design, they provide the lighting in such a way which helps in boosting the appetite of the customer. And one more thing is that the ambience of the cafes should be in such a way that it should be very cozy, and it should be bright plus cozy. You should incorporate different kind of lightings, as I've told you that one should incorporate different type of spaces in the project. Similarly, you have to incorporate different types of lighting in your project. Natural light is, again, it's a very good approach to incorporate natural lighting to your project, and you can do that by incorporating semi enclosed areas, or some open areas with uh, skylights, and this is how you can incorporate some natural light. Plus the area, if it is semi open, it should be well ventilated, and it should. Plus another most important thing is that if you are incorporating natural light, please make this thing clear that the exterior views should be good for the customer. It should not be like that I'm sitting in a cafe, I'm having a cup of coffee, and I can see heaps of garbage out there. So this should not be your design approach. If you have to provide natural lighting in that portion where the exterior views are beautiful, so please consider this point too. And colors and material, obviously a very important part of the cafeteria design. And you have to plus again, I'll say that the interconnection thing then again appears here too, that you if you are working on a concept, if you're working on, for instance, if you're working on feng shui interior design concept, if you're working on minimalist approach, if you're working on contemporary art, if you're working on baroque style of architecture, in whatever architectural style you want to adopt, you have to then follow the colors and materials according to it. So please be careful when doing this part, because we will be asking you questions that what type of theme you have followed, and what is your concept, and are your colors and materials going with the particular theme which you have followed. So please students consider all these points. These were the very important factors which one should consider while designing a project, and these should all not only be incorporated in the cafeteria project, these should also be incorporated in any kind of commercial projects. And I hope this was a very helpful lecture, as we have revised a few points from the previous lecture. We have discussed some basic points which on which the students, some of the students lack, and then we have moved on to a further next level of, and we have discussed some of the important factors of cafeteria design. So I hope this was a very helpful lecture, and I hope that you will view the lecture, and you will, if you have any ambiguity, any question, then please you can write your questions in the comment sections, or we can have a good discussion, a good and healthy discussion in the interactive sessions too. So thank you so much, students. I hope it was a helpful one, and take good care and stay blessed in this holy month of Ramadan, and work hard. Please don't forget that one should work hard, and one should never quit. So one only fail when he or she quits. So quitting is not an option. Work hard, and inshallah you will do the best. Thank you so much.